Hi everyone, welcome to the Outside Xbox E3 headquarters here in Los Angeles, California. We're going to be here all week bringing you the big news from the Electronic Entertainment Expo. But before we do that, Microsoft's clarified their position on a few of the questions arising from their Xbox One reveal.
Right, so there was some confused messaging after the announce about how things like pre-owned games would work and whether you would own the game that's on the disc and how many times or how long you need the console connected to the internet for it to work, things like that. And so Microsoft has sort of pretty much like ripped the plaster off in the days before the big E3 show and come up with all this stuff. And the details aren't pleasing a lot of people, are they really?
We were begging for answers because these are all really crucially important things we needed to know about. Naively, maybe we were hoping
Can we beg
hoping
for
good
answers?
news. But
I was convinced it was going to be terrible. I was like, if they're not talking about it, it's going to be the worst
terrible.
possible thing.
Yes, everything pretty much came out as bad as it could be. We knew it wasn't going to be always online, but it is a once-a-day check-in. So it's a once-a-day check-in. But I think more importantly than that, that's all kind of like a side issue around the kind of core
ownership
approach to ownership.
So essentially when you buy a game on Xbox One, the disc that you get isn't really the game in the way you would consider it in an Xbox 360. What you get is the license, which if you imagine it as like a code that you would enter into your Xbox 360 like an Xbox Live Arcade code, and that is the thing that is transferred around. The disc is just to install it onto your console. That license can then can be sold on and things like that at the discretion of third-party publishers. This is the thing that's been really confusing. Basically, Microsoft has said, we're going to allow you to trade your game for free, no charge, but it's up to everyone else to decide.
When they say we, they mean Microsoft as a game publisher.
Right,
the first party stuff, like the Halo or the Forza, they're like, no, we're not going to charge you.
We're the good guys, honest.
Thanks, Microsoft. What they're also doing is putting so much of the responsibility onto the publishers. And it's almost as if the publishers have had it in for trading games for so long that they're finally being given the responsibility to say, yes, we're going to allow trade-ins, no, we're not going to allow trade-ins, or this is how much we're going to charge for trade-ins in a deal they'll have to negotiate themselves with retailers. So Microsoft's giving them that responsibility, but it's such a poison chalice because just about anything they could do to kind of enact that responsibility is totally anti-consumer. And that is that's appalling.
So it's going to be like the equivalent of EA's online pass thing, which they recently
which they so generously relinquished.
Yeah, so now they can go, we relinquish that because we're going to charge you $20 if you want to play in the future.
Well, we got the answers we wanted in some respects, but in another way, it's just been pushed one step further away because it remains to be seen what all these publishers who have yet to comment want to do with their games and how they're going to handle pre-owns. And another thing was that loaning and renting isn't going to be possible at launch, and it's something they may implement later.
Yeah.
So loaning is so crucially a part of like a gaming lifestyle. You can loan someone your favourite book, but you can't loan them your favourite game.
Yeah.
I think that's
it's going to be
incredible.
hugely confusing for consumers as well. If there are publishers that allow you to loan and give away games, publishers that don't, some that charge you. I mean, how is your average gamer going to know who can and who can't?
Or a non-gamer. I mean, I think maybe a reasonably engaged games enthusiast will maybe know which publisher they're supposed to boycott around like anti-consumer DRM style measures, but a casual gamer may not, and certainly a grandma buying you a game for Christmas or something, to use that old chestnut, is not going to know this is the game they can't trade in, or this is the game from the publisher they're not supposed to be supporting.
Yeah, and I think fundamentally when you think about 10 years down the line, if you've still got a PS2 in your cupboard, you can wheel it out and play those games and stuff, but I think this comes at a time when Microsoft, through the backwards compatibility stuff, which we already know isn't happening on Xbox One, Microsoft doesn't really care about your games collection per se, because otherwise, they'd be doing something to transfer that XBLA library over to the Xbox One. What they're saying is, if you've still got an Xbox, you can play them on that, it'll be fine. On the one hand, you're saying, we don't really care about all your Xbox 360 games, and on the other hand, they're saying, no, trust us with these licenses. And it's, to take another example, Steam on the PC, if you've ever bought something on Steam, you're under the same limitations. You can't loan those games to people, you can't trade them in, the purchase is final, all that stuff. And people are fine with that, and to a degree I'm fine with that. I bought games on Steam. If they turned it off, it would be a big deal, because those games would disappear and I wouldn't be able to play them anymore, and that would be a big problem. And that is a big problem with Steam, and that's something you have to know before you're... And I think this is just about, like, it's sort of about Microsoft forcing a kind of a consciousness sort of shift in terms of what you think the game is. The game isn't the disc anymore, it's this abstract code that floats around on the internet.
I feel like we're in this really awkward for everyone involved, awkward for Microsoft and especially awkward for us as consumers of games. This awkward like middle ground.
I feel like Microsoft's just kind of taking the heat now, because they're anticipating that pretty soon you won't be able to go into a game store because they'll all have shut, because they're not making any money. So Microsoft's going, well, we'll allow them to do some kind of crazy pre-owned stuff where you take your game in and the license is transferred in the store and you hand the disc over, which is like analogous to how it is at the moment. But that's sort of almost them going, well, we'll do that for a while, and then eventually GameStop will shut down and Game will shut down in the UK, and we won't have to deal about it. Exactly. You know, people will be buying their games digitally and it'll be fine.
It's going to be so muddled in the interim, going into a game shop, or not a specialist game shop, but somewhere that happens to sell games, and asking the guy who works behind the till,
can I trade this
Can I
game?
come back and trade this in later? And
let me check the list.
I think what it comes back to, and it's like what I was saying about Microsoft's going to take this hit for the moment until the shops disappear and things. Basically, I think the whole digital revolution thing isn't where Microsoft was hoping it would be at the point where they launched their next console, as evidenced by the fact that this is a console that you have to take online every 24 hours, otherwise
the description
you can't play games.
On the Xbox Wire thing describes every Xbox One owner as having a broadband connection, and it talks about average broadband speeds. I mean, as you were saying, that's a ludicrous concept, right?
I love that line where they say, because every Xbox One owner has a broadband connection, is just a kind of back to front way of saying every Xbox One owner has to have a broadband connection, because otherwise they are by definition not someone who enjoys owning an Xbox One console.
So I suspect what Microsoft is seeing is this future where everyone buys their games online, everyone's always connected to the internet, but unfortunately the time has come to release a new console and the world hasn't quite caught up to where Microsoft needs it to be, which is why stuff like needing your console to be online every 24 hours is a problem. It's going to be a problem for people like me who, for some reason the other month, my internet went down for an entire week. And fortunately, I had an Xbox to entertain me where Twitter could not. Yeah. But this is going to be a real problem. And more of a problem for people on military bases and submarines. I know that gets wheeled out as like a sort of almost like, what are you doing to these heroes? But it's a fair point. You know, there are guys who do not have access to the internet regularly who would like to play video games.
Yeah. I mean, it's the check-in thing that we were talking about. It's once every 24 hours, and I imagine it's not going to be particularly heavy on the...
no, you're not going to need a broadband connection. Well, you will need a broadband connection.
But their solution was to use, mobile
tethering, right?
Right.
As if you're going to Bluetooth your phone to a...
They would have been better off leaving that out of their pronouncement, because that's an embarrassment. To be like, there's always mobile broadband. It is like, we can always kick you in the face. That's just dreadful. If you have to resort to telling your users they can use mobile broadband, then just don't bother. Maybe don't mention that.
But again, it's that thing where, does everyone have mobile broadband and a phone that's capable of tethering? Again, it's like...
If you're in a situation where you don't have broadband internet, you may also be in a place where you're not getting 3G, mobile internet either. So it's 24 hours, once every 24 hours it needs to be online. I mean, what Microsoft is hoping is that it's just going to be online, not that you're going to turn your router on once a day. And if you're at a friend's house, logged in as yourself, you have access to all your games. So that's ostensibly an upside of this digital future. Cool. But it's also going to have to speak to the internet once an hour to make sure you're still at your friend's house, it's still you, presumably.
I've less of a problem with the 1 hour thing. I think it's quite cool that I can go to a friend's house and we can hit a download button and download a game that I bought. I don't even need to bring the disc, presumably.
Yeah.
And we
or
can
your
play.
saves,
everything
will be there.
Everything will be in the cloud. But I have a real problem with the 24-hour time limit, because I think it's just too frequent. I don't understand a situation where someone's they're going to trade in their copy of FIFA and they're going to go home and pull the plug out of their Xbox One and they're going to be playing it for 6 months and all they're going to play is FIFA because they don't want to buy any more games because that would require them to plug it back into the internet.
They don't want any DLC for FIFA. They don't want to play online.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Don't want to play online. None of this stuff. I don't believe there are people who are that committed to trading in a game and still playing it.
That committed to dicking
yeah.
over Microsoft,
Yeah.
although now maybe.
and I just think 24 hours is just far too frequent. You look at like a Skybox, and they, you know, every so often it needs to dial back in, and it will warn you, but it doesn't stop you watching TV or anything like that. A Skybox is a cable box for our American viewers, but I don't understand this 24-hour limit. It seems crazy. I think we can trust people to maybe go a month without checking in Microsoft, probably.
There's an element of trust there that would have been nice to have.
And you're underselling your online offering, because you know what, playing Call of Duty online is great fun, and you know there's great stuff on Xbox Live that you want. You know,
I enjoy Xbox Live,
and you're probably
I also
paying
pay money for
it.
Xbox Live.
So it seems crazy to undersell the online side.
When
of
my
your,
internet goes down, I'm already cross enough.
Yeah,
I don't want to be doubly cross because my Xbox won't play offline either. Yeah.
It seems bonkers.
You just reminded me, when I was a kid, I had BBC Micro, and you could load games on that with a tape, and once you loaded it, you could take the tape out, and the game would continue to play until you turned your BBC Micro off.
Yeah.
And I did go like 3 or 4 days once without turning it off because I wanted to continue playing a game.
Well, you're an outlier.
This is the exact situation Microsoft doesn't want to happen.
That's because the entire program was.
It's like 4 days, and then I had to turn it off.
Was it because it was your friend's tape and they'd taken it home?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Okay.
Right.
But
Well, you're part of the problem.
Yeah.
At the cost of maybe some outliers, imagine they had like a once a month check-in,
Right.
And you went for a month playing a game that had also been traded in, or that you'd also like somehow gotten onto a friend's console, or whatever. I think that's a hit Microsoft could afford to take over the bad will that it costs them to demand daily check-ins.
Yeah. Tell me why it has to be 24 hours rather than a month. I just don't understand why. Yeah, that leniency. And you know, to go back to Steam, I can turn Steam into offline mode and play my games indefinitely. Now that could be a way to cheat the system, but that's assuming I don't then want to buy any more games from Steam, or you know, or interact with Steam in any way other than.
I'm done with online Steam.
Yeah, I'm done. No more games for me. There's no one's going to turn their Xbox One into this mega console of stolen games, because it's not going to be possible. Every time a new game comes out, you're going to have to connect to register the game, which is fine.
And Xbox Live I so much of the way I enjoy my Xbox is with Xbox Live.
Right.
As evidenced by the fact that I will pay for it, and will have to continue to pay for it on Xbox One. That's a certainty.
Yeah.
Perhaps they're worried that, you know, people who don't pay for Xbox Live Gold, and there are still those people in the world, those Neanderthals.
You're not allowed to say that.
I'm joking, obviously. Maybe they're worried that, you know, like if it continues to connect online and it's forced to be online, then maybe people will, you know, pay
finally
for the
make that leap.
Finally.
But
they're trying to push everyone into the digital future, and everyone's like, no, I like discs. I like collector's editions. I like having physical things.
Yeah.
I like having collections.
that age is done.
Yeah. Is Microsoft just fundamentally misunderstanding, or just neglecting the emotional attachment to video games?
Just not
Just a
understanding
cold-hearted software company.
It's a robot that doesn't understand these feelings.
Oh, well, that is sad. That is deeply sad. Okay, Kinect isn't going to spy on you. It's not going to watch you sleep. Hey!
Send nude photos of you to the government.
Did anyone really think that was going to happen?
Oh, yeah.
Were you worried about that?
Yeah.
I think we did say that we just wanted a line from Microsoft, you know, reassuring.
Yeah.
That, you know, this is what Kinect will do. When it's in standby, this is what it's doing. They say when it's in standby, the only thing it's listening out for
it's your death
are these
screen.
10 words. No, are the words Xbox.
You're right.
And so they're like, oh, it's not really listening to you otherwise.
Yeah, but my lowest moments are when I'm playing video games. I'm lying there with a bag of, you know, crisps on my chest. I'm like, you know, 14 chins with the headset on.
That's a vivid.
I would rather it would watch me when I'm not playing video games than when I'm actually playing.
Yeah, that's your most flattering moments when you're not playing.
You can opt out of it collecting data about you as well, right?
Yeah.
Which is nice.
that's
They said some positive things around privacy, which at the very least means if they're ever caught out not being pro-consumer on the privacy issues, then we've at least got it in writing that they've broken their word.
Right.
So that's something. So that's maybe the one positive takeaway, but also perhaps the one that was like a mainstream concern rather than a gamer concern.
That's like a sort of tabloid. Oh God.
Yeah.
Xbox spy machine in every home.
Watch TV.
Orwellian nightmare.
Yeah. So Not a great start.
Yeah, a bit of a downer, really.
To the
Although
E3 season.
I like to imagine they're
Microsoft.
flailing around just so it looks even more awesome when they win E3 with a load of amazing games.
You think it's showmanship?
Yeah, I think it's like, oh look,
You're not going to care.
They're down,
when you see
they're
the
down,
amazing
they're down.
games. You're going to go. I don't care. You can
Yeah.
spy on me all day and
Yeah.
It's
with
like
your
there's,
cameras.
it's like they're
as long as
scripting a 3-act structure.
Right.
You
This
know,
is the down
In tribute to
bit.
Yeah.
Hollywood, where we
This is-
almost are right
Our
now.
hero
This is
who
the Empire
reaches
Strikes
their lowest
Back.
end. Yeah.
Han Solo's frozen in the carbonite. Everything's gone wrong.
So
Steve
Act 1
Ballmer's
was the
hands
Xbox
cut off.
reveal.
Yeah.
Act 2 is this low point,
And then
the lowest
the
ever.
Microsoft conference, that's
Boom!
Return of the Jedi, all the
Yeah.
Ewoks will come out and dance around. And
I don't know.
Oh God, if they've
I don't
really
know
got
if they can claw it back on any of that stuff. They can
Yeah.
show some excellent games,
Hmm.
but I don't know how much those will speak to these really like anti-consumer.
But I've got a
issues.
question. How much is, even, in the same way that this is all confusing, like we're all obviously super engaged in video games and stuff, but the guys who just want to pick up FIFA or Call of Duty,
Yeah.
the guys who aren't super engaged and who would be confused by all this stuff, how are they going to know this when they buy the console? Are they going to be aware of all this stuff? Is it going to be something that's snuck into their homes?
That's something that remains to be seen, because if they're not really engaged, then all this stuff will pass them by.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a matter of how well communicated is it at the point of sale or on the Xbox when you install the game, and
will Microsoft be under obligation to convey this before people buy it?
I
Yeah.
don't know.
And then when it comes up against some sort of European trade standards, and
Yeah.
so that's the start of play for E3, which begins in 2 days, 3 days, if you want to be official about it. What do you make of Microsoft's starting point from here?
I think it's a bit of a catastrophe, but equally, I kind of see why I see why they've got it out of the way, because they really need to arrive on Monday with just a load of awesome games that are gonna. And I can't even think of a lineup that's going to dispel all these questions.
Yeah.
What have you got, Microsoft?
Yeah.
That makes you think you can say this stuff,
Yeah.
and then come to E3.
To distract people from this, it's going to have to be amazing.
Also, the other thing we've got to remember is there is a competitor console on the way called the PlayStation 4.
Yeah, we
You
haven't
might
talked
have
about
noticed.
That, have we?
Yeah.
They've gotten a free pass on
Right,
this so
They
far.
haven't. Have they
all-
talked about this?
Not really.
Yeah.
And actually, it wouldn't surprise me if there's been a bit of collusion in terms of what the third-party publishers have been demanding in terms of pre-owned and things like that. It wouldn't surprise me if PlayStation has a similar problem shortly after their showcase, when their execs are asked how their game their system.
But they've got
handles it.
almost infinitely better PR over
right.
it.
Yeah.
And actually, they've had a swell of people saying, "Well, we love you, Sony, for not being."
All they've got to do is keep quiet about
Right.
it.
Yeah. Just never.
And then
mention
they've
it.
got to say, well, we're going to ask you to check in once a month or once a
Yeah.
week. And
Yeah.
Anything would be
Oh,
better
that's
than
better.
24 hours.
Yeah.
I think. Well, we'll see. There will be people asking those questions of Sony, and
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see.
But none of these
What
guys are
they
going to be
say.
talking about it at E3 in their conferences. I mean, it's stuff that
No,
might come out
no.
of executive interviews afterwards,
Yeah.
but no one's going to go up on stage at
No,
E3
and go,
and be
Yeah,
like,
hey guys, guess
so
what?
this is
Actually,
how
that
often
would
you're
be-
going to have to check in.
Yeah.
I mean, even if they were going to say something good, that's just not the stuff of a conference.
No.
That's not glamorous, like spectacular stuff for a
It would be
for a big
ballsy though if
conference.
Sony turned up and went, you know what, you don't never have to connect your PlayStation 4 online. You can
We
play your
trust
games
you
as much.
guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that
Um,
would be
Wow.
a pretty big win.
But yeah, Microsoft has really put themselves on a back foot going into E3. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with on Monday.
All right, so that's where we stand with Microsoft at the moment. I'd say there's everything to play for, but they're going to have to do a hell of a lot of playing.
It's an uphill struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
exactly. So let us know what you think of Microsoft, the details that have come out in the last day or so, and we'll see you on Monday for the actual Microsoft E3 conference on OutsideXbox.com. Join us where you can watch it live.
Bye.